Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to start a bit of a different series reading vlog because I want to discuss with you the Hell's Library series. Now, the reason why this one is a little bit different from my usual series reading vlogs is that I have already read the first and the second book, and I do want to reread them to be ready for the third book. Now, this is something that I have been putting off for, I don't know, 3 years now or something. I have been doing these videos at the end of the year where I talk about books that I thought I would read in the year and that I didn't get around to. And the third book in this series is literally in every single one of these videos. So this year, this is not going to be the case. So I'm starting the reread of this series now, and as with my other series reading vlogs, I will always update you when I'm halfway through a book and when I have finished a book. This will also be spoiler-free for the most part, and there will be some clearly marked spoiler parts where I discuss a little bit more about the books that you can use the chapters to jump over, so you're safe if you haven't read this series yet. I really loved the first and the second book, but I have an incredibly bad memory, so it is very necessary to do these rereads. And I think with that, I have said everything we need to know for this little intro, so let's get reading. So I'm now halfway through the library of the Unwritten on my reread. I'm very glad I'm doing this reread. I'm having a great time. I'm still really loving the book. I forgot how funny it is, but also my recollection of what's going on in the first and the second book is completely muddled. Like, what has been going on in the first half of this book, I thought was the second book. So now I have no idea what the second book even was about. So yeah, it's like all a big jumble in my head. And so yeah, it's good we're doing this. But let me tell you a little bit of what this series is about. In this one, we do have a full cast of characters, but I would say our main character is a woman called Claire, and she is the head librarian of the Unwritten wing in Hell's Library. So we do have Hell. And in Hell, we do have libraries, and we have one particular library where all the books go that have not been written yet. With some of these, the authors have passed away, so they will forever stay unwritten. Others still have the chance to one day be written. In this setup, we follow Claire as she has to find a lost book, because sometimes these books can kind of come alive as one of the characters in the book and then try to escape. And one of the books has escaped and has actually met up with its author. And so Claire and her assistant Brevity, who is a muse but has kind of been kicked out of the muses because she didn't want to use her inspiration on people, they go to find that book. They find a book in the character of the hero, and then they also have this young demon slash kind of dead human soul, Lido, with them. Lido is the one who brought to their attention that a book has gone missing, and so they are taking him on this trip as well. However, there's also a little bit of a plot going on with some angels. And on the angel side, we are following a fallen watcher angel called Ramiel. And he learns that there is this Devil's Bible, and that some pages of this Devil's Bible are still on Earth somewhere. So the angels want to find those pages to kind of take power away from Hell, while our characters on the Hell side of things also go after these pages when they find the book. It's all a little bit complicated how that comes to be, but it doesn't really matter. But those are the central characters that we are following. And what I love so much about this book is the way these characters interact with each other. Claire is a little bit standoffish. She doesn't really like to have meaningful relationships. Brevity, on the other hand, is kind of like very bubbly and sweet and nice and kind. And then we have Lido, who is just a little bit just a sulky teenager basically, and he doesn't really know who he is or why he is in hell. And then we have Hero, the book character, and he's quite arrogant, but also kind of funny. And Ramiel, at the beginning of this book, is like very serious, but he will have to learn that some of the things he believes are not true. So I think with that, we have a good kind of groundwork to discuss this book now. As I said, the beginning of this book in my head is the second book. So I'm completely confused right now, but I'm also really enjoying it because I had a really good time just like revisiting this. In this world, there is not only the Christian hell and heaven, there's also other like afterlife worlds and stuff like that, and we get to explore some of this. We also learn about the demons and what they're up to. And there is like this looming threat of a war if hell and heaven decide to fight it out over those lost pages. So our like little team of travelers is really just trying to avoid this war, and while they go on this quest to find those pages, they just have a big old adventure, and it's so fun. I like that these characters, they all have kind of their secrets, and so their relationships are kind of fraught, but at the same time you can see that they start relying on each other, trusting each other more or less, but there will also be some betrayal and some more heartbreaking things later on in the book. So I do remember a little bit of this, at least for the ending, but for the most part, I'm just sitting here like, what's going on? And in a way, it's great to have such a bad memory, just because I can experience the story again. Right now, we are on Malta. So it's definitely interesting what's going on right now. I do remember a little bit of it, but just at the halfway point where I'm at right now, something happened where I'm like, wait, like how does this work out? I'm not quite sure anymore, but I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it, being back with these characters, being back in this world. And so I will continue reading the rest of this. Now, I'm currently preparing my Italy trip, so I want to get this finished before I go, which means I will have to sit down and read quite a bit still, but I'm positive I can do it. And it's so nice to be back. I'm here for another update because I just finished rereading The Library of the Unwritten, and this was just great. I'm so glad I did this reread. It was a lot of fun. I really refreshed everything in my memory. I am still in love with these characters so much. The ending, when a certain character finally comes around, is like so great, and I already can't wait to do the reread of book 2 and then finally get to that third book. So on reread, this one stayed a 4.5 stars for me. I would say this one is mainly a quest story where our characters have to achieve something, have to come together to travel through different worlds and realms, and yeah, it's just really, really fun. And I don't know if I can say like a ton more. I'm just like, as I said, so excited to be back in this world, and I want to keep reading so badly. However, I'm going on a 2-week trip tomorrow, so it will have to wait a little bit. For you, it will continue on in a second. For me, it will be a couple of weeks before I reread book 2, but that's all right. I will keep and carry these characters in my heart. This book also takes place a little bit on Malta, so now I'm like, should I go to Malta? We'll see about that. I think I said that in my previous update. So I think I'm going to keep it at this, because otherwise I will just keep gushing at you that this is an incredible book and an incredible series, and you just have to go and read it. Instead, I will just say I want to go into a couple of spoilers, maybe talking about stuff I remembered, stuff that surprised me on a reread, things like that. So if you have not read this book yet, please use the chapters to jump over this next part for my spoiler-free thoughts on the second book. But yeah, let's discuss some quick spoilers. I really don't want this video to be too long. There's so much in this book that I absolutely love. The thing that surprised me the most is that right at the beginning of the book, they go to Valhalla, and I really thought they went to Valhalla in the second book. I could not remember that this happened in the first book. I did kind of remember like the vibes and like vaguely what happens, but I was so convinced that was in the second book. I have no idea how my brain made that up. It was wrong. It's in the first book. It's literally the beginning of the journey. No matter, I still really enjoyed it. I just love seeing the different realms in this one. The way that we have Valhalla, and we have this like almost Egyptian kind of dead realm, and then also like, you know, the catacomb stuff. And yeah, there's just a lot in here that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed this idea of the silent city where non-humans can't enter without an invitation. I thought that is just a really interesting little snippet, and it really made me want to go and see that city for myself, because it is an actual place in this world. I love the whole like traveling adventure quest aspect of the story. I think what is so great in this one, and maybe I should have said that in the spoiler-free part, is that these characters are really brought to their limits. Like AJ Hackwith is not holding back with what she puts her characters through. And that is most true for our main character, Claire. I think Claire is really pushed to her physical limits, but also her mental limits. She really has to acknowledge the things that she has done wrong in her life, and how she hasn't like really broadened her perspective in a couple of ways that she really has to reckon with now in this book. And I love that. The way that she has to acknowledge that these unwritten books are not just objects to kind of keep in a safe place, but that there is like these characters that can like develop like real personalities and become real people. And it's like so heartbreaking at the end when you have the big fight and all of the damsels are killed by the demons. It's just so sad in a way, even though you just have them for like very few pages. You don't really get to know the damsels, but just like the idea of them, I think, is so great, that these are characters that were never really well developed in a novel, but because they were allowed to live outside of their books, they really grew into like actual personalities and became like actual people who also wanted to fight for their home. And I think there's a lot of that stuff in this book that I think is just so smart, the way it is done and dealt with. And then don't get me started on the character interactions and the character dynamics, because that's really where my heart beats with this series. The relationship of Claire and Lido is so amazing, and seeing it, knowing what we know at the end of this book, that Lido is probably something like her grandson, it's so bittersweet to see them together throughout this journey. The way that Lido is weirdly drawn to Claire, even though she can be a little bit bristly and stuff. It's just really great. And also how being with Lido brings back something in Claire, a way to care that she had lost in the years that she has spent in the library. Then we have Brevity. I love her so much. She is so bubbly, but she has this anxiety inside of her. And again, I think it is so smart to show how anxiety for Amuse and fear is something that kind of makes sense because of what they are. And I think it really comes together in her character as well, that you can see that sometimes her like bubbly personality is really just her masking her fears, and at other times it is like genuine and heartfelt. And I really love her as a character, and I can't wait to see her grow. I have a feeling that she isn't in the second book as much as I wanted to, but that might be completely wrong because my memory is not great. Ramiel. And he in this book also has a lot of an arc, and I mostly love him in this book because he comes around in the end, and I know that he comes around in the end. He's like really struggling with his position. He wants to go home. He wants a way to get back into heaven. At the same time, he knows that stuff that is going on in heaven is not right. And so him coming around in the end and spending time in the library and kind of also being drawn to Claire, fantastic. I can't wait to see more of their relationship because they have such a mutual respect, I think, in the second book, if I remember correctly, that I absolutely adored. Then we have Hero, who's not a hero at all. He's actually the villain, but I love him so much. Like how he and Claire grow close again through respect for each other and the choices that they make, and also just what they have to go through together. Love it, love it, love it, love it. It's just delicious. So yeah, I think that, you know, having this whole journey with these characters, starting out with like the cozy library and then moving along through these different worlds and realms and adventures, and then finally having this like big battle in the library, I think this book really goes like full circle, and it just feels so satisfying to read this book because yeah, it just makes sense. Like there's nothing in this book where I would say, you should take this out or something like that, you know? It's just really, really well crafted, really well written. I love it. So maybe just to recap a little bit again, some things that I should have said spoiler free. I love how these characters really are put to their limits in this book. They're pushed to their limits and they have to grow, they have to evolve, they have to trust each other to grow together as well. I love that. And I just love, again, the whole like exploration of this world that we see in this first book, and how everything just comes so full circle that it just feels so satisfying. So I'm happy. I hope that was somewhat understandable, comprehensible, and I will talk to you again once I'm reading the second book. I'm very sorry I'm coming to you in a little bit of a scarecrow mode right now, but it is evening right now. It is, like after dinner. I just had a shower. I was on the phone with my mom and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit in the like winding down moment of the day, but I do still have quite a few reading hours in me, and I wanted to give you a halfway update before I progress with the book. So I'm currently halfway into my reread of The Archive of the Forgotten. This is definitely an interesting experience because, pun intended, I have forgotten all about this book. I don't remember anything about this book. So it's a very fun experience going through this book again. So it is a little bit hard to talk about this book without spoilers, but I'm going to try my best. So after the events of the first book, we do get a little bit of a reshuffle of these characters. We do have two characters who were very close in the first book, but now there is a bit of a wedge between them. They can't really communicate with each other very well right now, and it's just very, very difficult. They're at the very difficult point in their relationship. Well, we have two other characters who didn't really have much to do with each other in the first book, but because of what's going on in this one, they are now kind of working together and maybe just getting to know each other a little bit more. Now, this book is set about half a year after the first book, so also the character dynamics have progressed in a way. So we do see these characters at very different points than we saw them in the first book, which is interesting. I do like some things. I am a little bit not loving some other things, like especially the two characters who are currently not on good terms or just have this like problem they can't really figure out together. It's like really hard to read that about people that you liked them working together, but now they're kind of forced to work apart and they don't really know how to deal with that. And it's like really, really sad in a way, and also a little bit frustrating because they do work so well as a team, but you can see that when they're not working together, they're actually both doing a worse job. So it's like, it's a bit frustrating. So for the plot of this book, this one definitely is very much influenced by what's happening in the first book. So as I said, I can't really talk a lot about that, but basically we do have this mysterious thing that appears and it threatens our main character Claire's life, and now the characters are trying to figure out what this is. Like, we're still dealing with the same kind of logic. We still have Hell's Library, we still have the other realms. We do explore some of the other realms. So in the first half of this book, for example, we go to Elysium, so where the Greek kind of heaven is. So that's like pretty much in the same vein as the first book. What's different from the first book mainly is the character dynamics. So I would say the overall feel of the book, the kind of stakes and all of that, very similar to the first book. Obviously a different mystery and something that is connected to what we had as the mystery, or like the quest of the first book. I don't really know what else I can say about this book without spoilers, so I think I'm gonna stop this here. I think I made all the important points. It's set a little bit after the first book, continues on the story, new kind of mystery, same kind of characters. We have lost some of the characters. I just want to continue reading this, so that's what I'm gonna do now. Bye! So I am back because I just finished reading The Archive of the Forgotten by A.J. Hackwith. And as much as I didn't know how to talk about this book yesterday when I was halfway through, I still don't really know how to talk about this book because like there's so much going on that is like all like so far developed from the first book that I can't even really talk about it. But I did really enjoy this book on reread. Right now, I would say I still preferred the first book a little bit. So I think I gave this one 4.5 stars originally as well. Right now, it feels more like a 4.25 star read, not quite hitting the highs of the first book. And I think one reason is that one of the characters in the second book is really quite frustrating to read about. It's just that the choices that are made and kind of like the things that are going on with that character are just a bit grading, and it takes a while until stuff gets resolved in a way. So that's maybe why I don't completely love this one as much as the first book, but I still think it's a worthy sequel. I love that we get to explore this world even more. We explore new parts of the library as well as new afterlives. So I think that's really fun and something that is like very unique to the story, because oftentimes when I hear that a book has like hell and angels and demons, I'm kind of bored with the concept. But because this one does not kind of focus in on the Christian ideas of that, but it opens the world up to other religions, other beliefs, other afterlives, I think it's just so much more interesting, and there's always more to learn about this world and more to explore about this world. And while I think like the stellar thing for me are the characters in this book, I also really like seeing this world and exploring it. Now, I really did not remember a whole lot about this book. Like, when I started the book, I remembered nothing. Like, what I thought would happen in the second book, already in the first book, I mentioned that before. So, when I went into this, I had no idea what was going on, what was going to happen. And some things then kind of came back to me little by little. But really, I'm quite shocked how little I remembered this book. And that's maybe also why I feel like this isn't quite as high in my feelings right now, because I just know that it was so easy for me to forget what this book is about. There's one thing in here that I did not forget about, and that is the relationship of like two of the characters I talked about earlier. That is the best part of this book, and I'm just so happy how it developed and the kind of scenes that we get, and I can't wait to get more in the next book. I have always thought that after reading this one, I would really like this to develop into a throuple situation or like some kind of like poly situation. Honestly, I'm also fine with where we're at right now, so I don't want to get my hopes up too much for the third book. I think that's all I'm gonna say for the spoiler-free part, because really it's hard to talk about. It's just hard to talk about, and I'm still really enjoying it. And I can't wait to now finally start the last book. This will be my first time reading this finale. I'm so excited. I will get right into it. Like as soon as I finish this video, I will get myself a chai and start reading this book. Before we do that, I quickly want to go into a couple of spoilers just in case people have read this series already, so we can discuss a little bit more in detail about like the things that I just hinted at right now. So let's do that. If you haven't read the book yet, please use the chapters to jump to my spoiler-free thoughts of the final book. But for the peeps who have read this, let's discuss. I think my biggest frustration with this book comes from brevity, and I really love the relationship of Claire and Brevity in the first book. I think they make a great team, even though, Claire clearly is not the nicest person. And I think what I'm struggling with a little bit in this book is how much shit it gives Claire for the choices she has made and for just the way she is. I think it's just a little bit too much. But let's stick with Brevity for a second, because in this one now, she is the librarian and she really wasn't ready, and I think you can totally tell. But still, the way that she tries, but she can't really like allow herself to step into the role fully, and how that is also like a big struggle for Claire, because she is not her mentor anymore. She's now the arcanic person, whatever. So basically Claire is trying to build up the distance because she kind of feels that if she stays close to Brevity, then Brevity will never find her footing as the librarian, and at the same time it hurts Claire. And like, let's be honest, if you do your job for like 30 years and then suddenly you get to be put onto a completely different position and you have to watch someone else do the work you loved, that is painful and hurtful. And I just felt like Brevity was so lost in this book. And then also have her like sister muse Probity, and Probity from the beginning we feel kind of weird about her, and I think it's mainly because we see her a lot from Claire's perspective, and Probity really hates Claire, and I think up until the end is never really fully explained why Property feels that way. I think there's definitely a bit of a gap there, from like thinking that things could have been different or that Brevity was so mistreated. I don't know, like it never really appears like very clear how Property came to the things she believes about Claire. But obviously Property really doesn't like humans at all, so that's also added on top. And then we have the whole situation where it is obvious that Claire and Brevity should work together because they have this mysterious ink business. They have to figure out, like, the ink is in the arcane wing, but it comes from books, so it's not really clear, like, whose responsibility it is. And you would expect from the history of these characters that now they would band together and kind of solve the mystery. But that's not what happens. And it's actually, in a way, a thing I like about the book, that these characters just had like traumatic events and they have to deal with so much. So it kind of makes sense that they don't fall into these old roles again. It's something they both try to avoid in a way for different reasons. Then, as I said, it feels very frustrating when you read it how lost Brevity is, and that she gets influenced by Property so quickly and without so little resistance. Now, obviously, Property's whole plot with like experimenting on these younger muses and the way that they turned into these like ravenous monsters, and that Property is just like, yeah, let's have them eat some books and see whether that helps them at all. It's all like freaking crazy. And yeah, at that point you really lose all trust in Property, and luckily Property does come around. But I really like the way that she's struggling, because she can feel, even in the end of the book, how she is part of the gang, but she's not really part of the gang, you know what I mean? So I'm intrigued to see how that will develop in the third book, because these character dynamics is just really what I love about these books. Then we have the whole Hero and Ramiel situation, and I don't want to go into great details, but they kissed and that made everything so much better. I love these two together. I think that the way their personalities fit together is very beautiful, and I just really enjoy them as a couple. I just really love how Hero is always trying to get like his like usual reactions from Ramiel, and Ramiel is just like, no, I'm just a stoic man, and I will just stand here and take it. I just really love that, and they have conversations about it as well, where Hero is like, why do you treat me with like respect, and why do you take me seriously? And Ramiel is just like, why wouldn't I? And it's just so great. I love these two together. Hero has to go through a lot in this story, and I don't think he deserved that. Like, he is also in the first book, but also in this one, he always has to go through hell, literally. So yeah, I feel like really bad for Hero, and I really hope he gets a break in the third book, because he has done like all the character development, and I really hope he can just be a happy little boyfriend in this final book. We'll see about that. I just love their dynamics, and I love their dynamics with Claire. I love that they know that even though Claire is not a nice person, she will always have their backs, and that she's a very loyal person, that she's very convicted, and that she will do anything for the things she believes in. And that is kind of the struggle, because what we learn in this, that the books actually have parts of the soul of the author in them, is something that completely breaks with everything Claire believed in. So she's having a really hard time. She has to go through some character development now as well. So that's definitely one thing I'm also intrigued to see how it plays out in the third book. I think that's all I'm gonna say. I love this series. I love these characters, and now I finally get to experience their like full arc, see where everything leaves off, and I'm so excited. So let's do it. Let's read the third book. So I'm now halfway through The God of Lost Words, and so it's time for an update, and I try to keep this one short. There's a lot going on and so much I can't really talk about, but this book does build on the kind of news that we learned in the previous book. There was some like very significant information that was regained. And this information is also very dangerous to the library. So if other people find out, then the library is even more in danger than it was before. And obviously, when we start the book, people start finding out that information, or at least having suspicions. And so it is upon our favorite characters to find a way to save the library. And basically what they're trying to do is kind of get the library out of hell, because right now the demons are the biggest threat to the library. However, to do that, they will have to succeed with certain steps that other librarians before them had tried and failed at. So it is very dangerous and complicated thing to do. So we do return to some of the places we've already seen in the previous books. We do return to some of the characters we've already met in previous books. So I would say that like one thing that I'm missing a little bit is exploring new stuff. So far in the first half of this, I feel like we haven't really gone to a place that we haven't seen before, but I have a feeling that that will change in the rest of the book, that we do get to explore like new things. Now, one new thing we have seen is the library in the Valhalla realm. And this library is not quite what you would expect. And it's actually super, super sad. Like, it actually made me cry. Because, yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but like it deals with basically thoughts that people have in their last moments. And it has something to do with that. So whenever that is like inserted, when you like read actual thoughts, it's so sad. It is so sad. So yeah, that's like one thing. Then we obviously have our characters, the ones that are still around. And with them, we do have some more progression in their relationships. Now, I must say, even though this is going in the direction that I wanted it to with the relationships, I feel like we don't get to see a lot of that. Like, we just see that things might have changed, but it's not really explained how that came to be. So that's something that's bugging me a little, because that is exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see these characters grow together. And we actually don't have that much of a time jump between the second and the third book. So it feels extra weird that we don't get to see the development of these relationships. And now we just have like slightly shifted dynamics and don't really know how they came to be. So I think that's a little bit sad. However, I am still really, really in love with these characters. I love following their journey, and I think the development with each of these characters is fantastic. In this first half, especially with Rami and Brevity, we do have kind of, moments where they really have to grow, where they have to make some decisions, but also where they come out on the other end, like really having gained something, having learned something about themselves. So I did really enjoy that. And again, it also made me quite emotional, because some of what's going on in here is just beautiful, and some of the sentences are just beautiful, and others are hilarious. So I am still really, really enjoying my read of this series. I am intrigued to learn how this will all come to an end. We are at quite the precarious point in the story right now, so I definitely will continue reading this today and maybe, hopefully, even finish it. We'll see. I'm really enjoying it. Let's see how it goes. So yesterday I managed to finish reading The God of Lost Words, and with that we have finished the series off, and this is the last little check-in of this vlog. So I am super excited that I finally managed to finish this book. This has been on my TBR for so many years, and I finally read it, and it feels like such an accomplishment. I'm very proud of myself, very happy, but in the end, this book didn't quite deliver the things that I was hoping for, so that is a little bit sad. And I definitely, had some like moments that I really wanted to see for these characters that didn't actually happen. However, the ending of this book also really made me cry. So I think there is some good, there is some like disappointment in my feelings for this book, but overall I would give it around a 4.25 stars. Again, I rounded it up to 4.5 stars because like it's getting ridiculous with the quarter stars, but it's just, I was expecting more, but then I also got a lot. So it's a little bit weird to really focus in on my feelings for this book. Now, in my previous update, I had said that I found it a little bit disappointing that with this book we didn't really go to any new places that we hadn't seen before, and that I was hopeful that this would change in the second half of the book, but it did not. Like, this very much stayed in the parameters that we had set in the first and second book, and we don't really go explore outside of that. We do return to a lot of places, we do return to a lot of characters we have met before, but there really isn't any new stuff in this book to make this world even bigger, sadly. We do have a central mystery again, like the question of how this library can survive the dangers, and so our characters are on a bit of a quest again to figure out answers and to save the library. So in that regard, this is very much the sequel to the books before it. And for the character work, I was really hoping for this to be polyamorous, and it definitely is in a way, but I had hoped for this to be explored just a little bit differently. It just stayed very surface level, and I just wanted to see more of that. I don't think we really got the full potential of the story that was set up in the first two books with this one in regards to the character relationships. For the character arcs and kind of the development of the characters, I think this book still did a lot. There were a lot of things that our characters figured out, the way they grew together, but maybe also just grew for themselves. It was definitely good, and I enjoyed seeing that. And it was bittersweet. It was definitely a bittersweet ending that made me cry like a baby. Like, that ending, it was just a lot. Those are my thoughts on the finale of the series. I still think the first book is my favorite because it was just the introduction into this world, but also to these characters. And I feel like the tensions were just there. And I don't quite think that the sequels quite lived up to that, but I'm very happy I finally finished this series, and it is one that I have like very fond feelings for. So for this last little part now, I do want to go into a couple of spoilers for this book. So if you haven't read this one yet, definitely thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it inspired you to pick this series up because I really love it, and I think you might too if you give it a try. And leave a like and a nice comment. Let me know, what do you think of the series? Like, do you think it's something that could work for you? And for all of the other people, we can just go into a couple of spoilers if you don't mind, so I can just talk about it a tiny little bit more because I feel like I need to. So, in this book, the big question is, how do we save the library? How do we save it from hell? We do have, I think, Malphas as kind of like the big bad. This is the demon general who is trying to get the library under hell's control. They have noticed the irregularities around the souls because of what happened in the second book with this like pond of like ink that is the souls of the destroyed books. And so when Rami sent that off, obviously the whole like soul count of hell was affected, and so they know something's up. They know something's up. And so in this one, we do have a lot of like trying to outmaneuver Hel and Malphas. And for that, they also brought back Andras as well to help with that. So it was interesting seeing him again, but I don't really think that it reached its full potential with that, because Claire makes this deal with him, right? That he will regain his position in Hel, but he doesn't. Like we never actually get like a full conclusion. Like the whole idea with Andras and Rami kind of swapping places when they go to the court, it made no sense to me. I felt like this was the wobbliest part of this whole story. But with everything, like also with Hero collecting the other libraries, I felt like it was just glanced over a little bit. It's like we see him do it once in Valhalla, and then with the other ones, it's just like, and then he went off on his adventure and got them all. And I really wanted to see a little bit more of that. In some instances, I just felt like we didn't quite get what the story was promising us. But then the book would have also been like twice the size probably. So I do really appreciate that these books are fairly short for fantasy books, and I think they do a lot within the span of the pages. But yeah, it was just sometimes that I felt like I was promised more than what the book was delivering. So we have that whole thing with like Andras, and he's there and then he's gone again. We do have the whole situation with the library slowly being destroyed as well, which obviously was heartbreaking. I think the way that Brevity grows in this book, especially once she gets kind of involved in the whole fight with Hel, when she is put in the oubliette, I never know how to say that. I felt like so scared for her, but the way that she outmaneuvered Hel in that whole situation, that she used her anxiety to kind of trick Hel to let her go again, was very smart. And I just think in this one, because like in the second book, Brevity is like very, very frustrating, but in this one, she finally grows into her role and she can kind of let go of her insecurities, and also because Claire accepts her more. I guess they just manage to fit into their roles better. So I really liked seeing Brevity's arc in this book. I think Rami is like, yeah, he deserved better. I don't know. He just deserves better. Let's just keep it at that. With Hero as well, with his whole journey in the Dustwing, Hero goes through so much in these books, and I really feel like the author was like, you know what? Let's put this fictional character through everything. And obviously, not deserved, but he definitely has a lot of like character development as well because of that, and he just grows a little bit more into a full person and not just like a snarky remark machine. So that's great to see, and I really love his relationship with Rami. I really like that, but I wanted to see the relationship between Rami, Hero, and Claire to be developed more. I feel like we do get this like one scene, but it almost felt like the author put that in so that the readers would be happy. It didn't really do much for me, to be honest. Like, it wasn't like the relationship went anywhere, if you know what I mean. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. So the thing that really got me at the end, which is like what this book actually deals with, this question of what are stories, what are souls, and kind of like what is life. And I just really love this idea, and also with the gods, kind of that life is always kind of a story. Like, it's a story we tell ourselves about our lives. And I think it's so fascinating if you think about how life is made up of so many parts and so many things that happen to us, but we always try to make it a narrative. And so I really liked this view of it, and I really liked this idea of the souls that, it's not like a splintering of souls. It's more like you can have different parts of your soul and like different things that you create. And really, 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 if I die, I would love to go to the library as it is described at the end. It was so beautiful, and we brought Leto back, which was like heartbreaking, and yeah, he's now the guide who brings the souls, and it was just beautiful. That was just so beautiful. I loved the ending. Like, it really, really, really made me like think about life and think about stories and like give it a good cry. So I love that part. But yeah, overall, I had a good time with this. I would gladly read more from this author. I think there is more, but I have to look into that a little bit. But yeah, also considering that this book was written during the worst of the pandemic, I applaud authors who managed to do that. Obviously, I wrote my PhD thesis during that time, so yeah, I know that it takes a lot if you're in a crisis to keep going, and I think considering that, this was a fantastic ending to the series. I had a great time reading this. I hope you had a fun time watching this. Definitely leave a like and a nice comment, as I said before. It really helps me out. And if you've read these books, definitely tell me all about your feelings. I would love to hear about it. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye.